Hi, this is Ed Metz from the U.S. Department of Education, where I lead the Small Business Innovation Research Program, a program that seed funds the development and evaluation of cutting-edge education technology products to improve outcomes for students, educators, and administrators. So excited about this Going Global session today to feature projects out of the program I lead and others across government in the United States. It's a very important topic to talk about how education technology that is high tech and sophisticated can also be available to use for low resource settings that might not have the bandwidth or the equipment to benefit from modern technology. But with the conversation today, we're going to see how these 7 developers and researchers are adapting their technologies so that they can be used in these underserved and low resource settings in the United States and globally. So that's kind of some context for the talk today, or the panel today. We're going to do 2 different panels. Panel 1 is a group of 3 fantastic education technology developers and researchers who have already successfully developed an education technology that they've either adapted or disseminated in low resource settings. Panel 2 is a group of 4 developers who are in the process of doing that. So we're going to feature those who have done it and those who are doing it to hear their insights about how they develop their Edtech for use in these different settings, and then what it's going to take to keep the dissemination, the sustainability for greater reach and greater impact in the field of education in the US and around the world. The goal of today's session is to introduce you, the audience, to these developers and to start a conversation and maybe start some partnerships and collaborations and discussions about how we can take all these great technologies and make them as beneficial as possible for everybody in the field of education around the world. So with that, I'm going to transition to panel 1 and to our 3 expert presenters. We'll start with 7th generation games. Oh, and how this is going to work, I'm going to just tell you about the technology. We're going to play a short video, and then after that, the panel will hop on board to answer some questions. 7th generation games designed a number of educational math learning games to teach students math through a cultural lens. All of their games already work with offline capabilities to be accessible in low resource areas across the digital divide. And Nicole, if you could cue the video for 7th generation.
Welcome to the Mayan Empire.
Bienvenidos al Imperio Maya.
For generations, our people roamed the plains.
Great, thanks a lot for that video demo. And we'll hear from Maria in a few minutes here. Next on the list for panel 1 is Lightning Squad. Serious Thinking developed this platform for in-person or remote tutoring to work with struggling readers in grade 1 to 3 using digital books, multimedia activities such as games, puzzles, and videos, and a dashboard to track student progress and provide instructional resources. Nicole, if you can cue the video.
Welcome to Tutoring with the Lightning Squad, a technology-assisted small group reading intervention in a game-like setting. The program is a collaboration of Serious Thinking, Success for All, and Sesame Workshop. First, an overview. The Lightning Squad enables struggling readers in grades 1 to 3 to achieve grade-level proficiency by developing skills in fluency, phonics, word blending, spelling, vocabulary, and comprehension. Students practice the skills as they read progressively challenging stories.
We can eat the cupcakes.
A computer-aided assessment determines initial story placement. Then students engage in story-related activities with a partner, taking turns as the reader and the coach. A paraprofessional tutor supports small groups of students and assesses their progress. In fact, assessment and reliable feedback are distinguishing features of the Lightning Squad. For example, in letter launch, the reader's response is checked by the coach against a modeled response in the program, providing timely peer feedback. At the end of the activity, the program generates feedback in the form of a score.
Well done!
When all the activities are complete, the tutor conducts an assessment of story-level mastery. Students celebrate passing the tutor check by spending the points they've earned on fun videos and games from Sesame Workshop's Electric Company, Serious Thinking, and Success for All. Engaging, effective, reliable. Tutoring with the Lightning Squad will help students become confident, capable readers.
Great, thank you so much. And we have Chris Cerf and Nancy Madden here to talk about that exciting intervention. And our third panel one presenter is Sarah from Learning Ovations. Learning Ovations created the Assessment to Instruction, or A2I, professional support system to improve literacy outcomes for students in pre-K to grade 3 by combining online assessments, data-driven recommendations, and customized professional development tools to support a formative assessment process. And the video for the Learning Ovations A2I.
Hello, my name is Stacy, and I am a teacher on special assignment for professional development. I'm very excited to introduce the video trailer for Learning Ovations A2I software platform.
A2I is a research-based, teacher-facing professional support system that takes student assessment data and uses it to provide instructional recommendations for teachers.
Students participate in our online adaptive assessments. These assessments allow us to find each child's reading level and are used to drive instructional recommendations for teachers.
After assessing students, you can log into the A2I platform to see current data of where students are at, their end-of-year goal, and instructional recommendations for how to get them there.
The classroom view gives teachers what they truly need to differentiate for all students in a manageable way. Students are grouped together based on recommendations that provide teachers with the specific amount and type of instruction needed for each group.
You can find activities to meet their needs in our lesson menu. The lesson menu utilizes your current curriculum and provides access to a variety of research-based resources.
Okay, thanks so much for those introductory videos. They set the table for panel one, once again with Maria, Chris, Nancy, and Sarah. And I'm going to start it off with a question for each of you to answer. And we're going to go back in time, and I'm going to ask you, what motivated you to create an EdTech innovation that could be used in low resource settings and underserved areas? Maria, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, so, I think we started looking at the fact that technology has made huge advances over the last decade, right? But when you look at learning outcomes, you haven't seen those same growth, right? Especially we focus on STEM, and that gap has not shrunk. And for communities of color, for Latino youth, Black youth, Indigenous youth, those numbers are even worse, right? And so we thought, why is this not happening? And the truth is, when we went into those communities, a lot of us on my team are from those communities. We were finding we couldn't access the technology, right? And so there needed to be a way that we could find ways that we could get the kids who needed some of these incredible innovations and interventions, the resources they needed access to. And so that's what we sat back and we did. We said, okay, how can we make sure that what we're doing is not just serving the kids who already have a lot of advantages and a lot of resources available out there for them, but how could we come up with solutions that are reaching the kids that need it the most?
Thanks, Maria. And I've always loved and appreciated the work you've done, because from the very first minute, you've been focusing on how you can develop technologies that will always be accessible to all students. Chris and Nancy, your work on this project was always also focused on students who needed additional assistance. Can you answer that question about what motivated you to partner on this incredible project, Lightning Squad?
Well, Ed, I'm going to turn it over to Nancy first, because they did so much work in tutoring that led to this program. And then I'll fill in with how we added video and other media resources to their work. Nancy?
So we for years have used the tool of tutoring to meet the amazing need that kids have in early reading. I mean, to this day, and with the COVID pandemic, it's even worse, but a very small percent of our kids in low resource environments actually get to proficiency in reading. So that's an urgent need. We've got more than 2/3 of kids just not performing at the levels that we need. So, and we know that tutoring is the best approach to really take care of the gap, to close the gap and increase kids' learning. But tutoring can be expensive if you need a full certified teacher or are doing one-to-one tutoring. So we went at providing a small group tutoring environment, and then harnessing the power of technology and media to really engage kids and to provide them with the feedback that they need, that kids need. So kids have partners that can listen to them and give them feedback when they read, and they have media that hits the spot, provides exactly the fun instructional resource that they need to move them to the next level.
Right.
Did I take your pitch?
Go ahead. I'll just add to that Success for All, which Nancy runs, has had tremendous success using cooperative learning in the classroom and elsewhere. And the kids supporting each other really helps. What I think we brought to the equation is with our work with Sesame Workshop with the electric company and our own show Between the Lions, which we're using in the classroom now as well. We develop videos that teach very specific goals in reading, but on a broadcast show, you're reaching everyone. You can't reach individual kids with exactly what they need, but because we assess kids day to day using these programs, we can show them videos that support what they're learning every day, both in the classroom, and we send them home to the kids too. And it's really, really working. We're very excited about it.
Great, thank you so much. An incredible partnership between Success for All developing an evidence-based intervention, and then working with Chris at Sirius Thinking to create a technology delivery mechanism to facilitate this intervention. And Sarah, you're part of a team that's been developing evidence-based, research-based interventions as well. What motivated you guys at the start to think about all those students who are really struggling with reading?
Sure. So the biggest piece for Learning Ovations especially is really supporting all students in that pre-K to third grade space. And obviously students in rural settings or with low resources is a critical piece of that. But I think there's also a separate component that's a little unique to us, is that people assume technology kind of requires high resource settings in a lot of cases. And especially for us with A2I, since we are helping teachers plan with the resources they already have, the access to technology is pretty minimal, but we're still able to then leverage this kind of additional information that technology can provide, but then allows teachers to boost their effectiveness and their teaching practices with the physical resources they already have. So kind of supporting that interplay between using technology as an advantage, but also using the resources available.
Great, thank you so much. So the second question really is going to get to the heart of the matter. If you've been watching, you've been hearing about these evidence-based interventions that are working and deployed. But the key question for the field, the global field of education, and for education technology developers, for these three teams, is how did you adapt your education technology or develop it in order for it to reach those low resource settings? So actually, if you can tell us how it's delivered to meet the schools and students without the resources, that would be great. And then how did you specifically develop it? I know that's a lot to cover in a minute, but I'd love to hear from each of you. Maria?
Yeah. So the first thing we did was we ignored a lot of people who said, oh, you should be developing for this, high-end device or everything in the cloud or those things, because we knew that wasn't going to work in the communities that we were in, right? And our goal was, if we're really going to reach the kids that we want to reach, we need to be making things that will run across all different devices. And that includes low-end devices. I went to Best Buy and said, give me the worst computer that you sell. We have, Android smartphones that they don't sell in the US because they're very, kind of low cost and not that great. And we knew if we could get our technology to run on those devices, and it could be accessible to kids everywhere. So that was one part of it. And then also creating culturally relevant content was another part of that accessibility, right? The kids could see themselves, not just, oh, that kind of looks like me, but here, the voices from there, in their language, looking like them, their daily life, those kinds of things. So we embedded that within the content of the game, customizing it so that, they're applying math in their daily life, not just some imaginary setting or somewhere far away, because when they saw themselves reflected in it, they were much more interested in engaging with it and retaining that.
And Maria, one of the most amazing thing about 7th generation games is your content doesn't suffer in any way. It's spectacular video game quality content, but it can be played offline. And it's being used obviously in the United States, but other countries as well. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, so we have, we also received funding from the Chilean government to roll out there. And then we're also working on some projects earlier stages in the Caribbean, because what worked, and we started working in US rural tribal communities, and what works in the middle of South Dakota is going to work at this, on a one-room micro school in the Andes, where you literally have a kid holding the router up to see if they can get better internet. And so that was a big part of what we did, understanding that if we could create something that worked in these really remote, rural, under-resourced environments, it would be able to scale much more widely than if we created the perfect thing that worked exactly in my computer with amazing, high-speed internet access.
Great. And there's a lot more to discuss with Maria, but we'll move on to Nancy and Chris. Tutoring with the Lightning Squad is a complex intervention. It's not just an app that you start playing one-to-one. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's theory, evidence-based intervention, and then combined with the technology. How do you deploy that to meet the needs of the students in those underserved communities?
Again, I'll let Nancy start that, because Success for All's network is the way we begin doing that. And then I'll fill in as well.
So we built it to, as Maria said, work on many platforms and work in many schools that they don't have high-end broadband. They've got something that works, but not necessarily well, and they've got old computers and all that sort of stuff. So we were attentive to the hardware and Wi-Fi and broadband capabilities, and so we kept it as simple as possible. But it is complicated, and so there's not technologically, but with the interactions between people and technology. Because reading requires that people use language, and that language is part of what goes on for kids to learn. So we harnessed the power of a teaching assistant, not a teacher, because that can work within a structured technology supported model. And as Chris said before, we harness the power of kids supporting each other. So those are, key resources that are more likely to be found in schools with adequate technology, and that combination provides a really powerful engine for kid progress.
And just to add to that, the videos we show can be shown at different resolutions depending on the bandwidth capabilities. So even kids with nothing but very low bandwidth can watch it at some resolution, and it gets better and better if you have more. But the real key again is that kids check each other's scores, and then they support each other. So they're both learning when they decide whether the other kid is right. And that works at a very simple level. And we have games about lots of different things built into the same program. So they practice many different skills at their own level at all times.
Great. And this is this intervention is right now part of a large-scale efficacy trial with implementation in some low resource settings. Is that correct? And how has the implementation of this intervention been going? Nancy, that might be for you.
So the intervention is going on in all over the country in real schools, and the schools are very rural, in poor urban settings, and everything in between. The trial, the random control trial, is going on in a community in Southern California with primarily English language learners, and it's going phenomenally well. I mean, we have teaching assistants working with groups of 4 kids, and adequate technology, nothing fancy, simple Chromebooks that kids use, and it's underway and really exciting to see what's going on in the schools.
I just add to that, Ed, that it's also being used in England now, and that's going extremely well too. There's been a lot of support from foundations there, and we're excited about the global possibilities in English language first and with English language learners, and then we'll see what happens after that.
There are 2 groups working. There's a group working in German and a group working in Dutch as well. We do have to change the language when we're working on reading.
There you go. And I'm like Maria's intervention, there's so much more to discuss about the work you're doing. I will add that the tutoring with the Lightning Squad was used for remote tutoring as well, not just in person, but during COVID-19, the team created a version that could be deployed through remote settings, which is an incredible technological adaptation. And it's very relevant to this discussion today, because then it could be used anywhere if it's available for remote purposes. So I would love for our audience to reach out to these developers here to find out about the opportunities to implement all of these in remote settings. Just because of time, we have to move on to not because of time, but Sarah, we want to hear from you. How is the A2I adapted to work in low resource settings?
Sure. So the biggest thing that we're kind of thinking about is the balance between the recommendations our software is providing and how that information can be applied by these teachers. And the lesson we've really learned there is plan for customization. So there's 2 kind of quick examples I'll give for that. One is aligning the expectations that we want to set to the realities of the environment that we're working in. So we have coaches who are paired with our software platform. And in an ideal setting, each teacher logs into their individual computer. We have a Zoom room just like this set up, and we can coach one-on-one. But in a lot of our schools, teachers are in a group. They might be calling in for those coaching sessions. So we've really been able to customize and adapt our professional development that goes with our platform usage to the technology available in these settings. And the other thing we want to reflect is the resources teachers have available. So if we're making instructional recommendations, if they have online resources, if they have a lot of ability to print and create activities, we want to make sure we're pointing them in that direction. But if they don't, and they have limited resources in the physical classrooms where they're in, we want to make sure that we're making most efficient use of those resources. So really customizing to meet the needs and the realities of each of those individual settings for the teachers, and then helping them be as effective as an instructor as they can with those resources.
Fantastic. And A2I is widely used in these low resource settings in the United States. Isn't that correct, Sarah?
Yep, that's correct. I think we're in 6 states now, and in school districts in very different settings across the board there.
And I think the key here is what Sarah said, that it's not just the implementing this high-tech solution. It is indeed the other elements, and working with the developer who has the capacity to provide that customized support. And A2I also is adaptable across different interventions itself to serve a role of plugging into that intervention and providing feedback that can then be used to guide practice. So we do need to move to our third question. And this one is, I think, for our panelists to talk about the models that they've been using to disseminate to low resource settings, how they sustain their operation. Obviously, there has to be some revenue here or they can't continue doing their work. And then what kinds of partnerships or what kind of conversations would you love to have with our audience to think about how we can make these high-tech interventions more available around the globe? That was a lot there. Sorry, Maria. I'm going to hand it off to you.
Yeah, no, I mean, for us, we've been lucky that we created a process as a platform so that we could streamline the development to make it much more cost effective and faster and all of those things. And so a lot of our dissemination has been, well, in the US, the US Department of Agriculture has been an incredible partner for us right now. We have a project under them that allows us to give the games and teacher support resources and training and all of those things to schools impacted by, or in 6 states, so North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Arizona, New Mexico, and Oregon, to help offset some of the impacts of COVID and learning there. So that's been a great partner for us in sustaining that and making sure that access to those is not an issue as based on cost, right? And then we have a number of partners that we have built games out with. So Thunder Valley Community Development Corporation or the Upper Sioux Tribe. And so we're building out kind of games around cultural elements with organizations at government levels in those areas that then help us distribute. And the good thing about software is, there is some cost up front, but the maintenance cost, the support cost is fractional compared to that. So once it's built, it's really easy for us to maintain and continue to scale. Great.
And what kind of networks are you looking to connect with, Maria, for a global dissemination?
Yeah, well, I'd say for us, a lot of it has been working within those systems. So Ministries of Education has been a big partner for us for some cases in terms of building out curriculum that meets their learners. And we don't ever want to go into some place and say, hey, we know exactly what your students need, because we don't. They know much better than us, and we even at the teacher level, right? And so building out those relationships with others who are working at kind of an organizational level, whether it's Ministry of Education or larger scale programs within the communities that we're in. Or interested in entering.
I would add that that Maria's team develops these games in kind of collaboration with the different clients you have. So definitely reach out to Maria for specific culturally relevant math and social studies and history games.
Yeah, we do the math part, and then we say we work with our partners to create the cultural part and the Spanish language games we can also do in-house, but we've done some in other indigenous languages that we then work with partners there, because my Lakota and Navajo is not there, but we were able to work with folks to be able to make sure that those games are right.
Thanks, Maria. So Chris and Nancy, how did you disseminate this? What's your strategy? And then what kind of partners are you looking for?
Well, you take it first, Nancy, and I'll do my usual.
Yeah. So we work with school districts. The reading is, of course, core to what early education is about, and the schools are the ones that feel the need the most. And the schools take it on. They can use their own staff. It's the professional development is easy to do and can be done virtually, as Marie was describing. As Sarah was describing, it's very productive to have a flexible virtual interactions around professional development. So much of the issue for tutoring is it's a shift in the way you think about using educational resources. So a lot of the support goes to just helping schools and districts revisualize how to use their resources. And the technology is, sort of the easy part of the change. And it's the re-engineering around it to get kids to it and give them the feedback that is the challenge.
I would just add to that that one of the things we've been focusing on at Sirius is making the technology more accessible and easier. We've been working with Makefully, whose designers, Miguel Montanez in particular, were very central to designing the PBS Kids website, which is very easy to navigate. And we're working with him to do the same here. And one of our goals is to have a delivery mechanism that can deliver just the right video or a simple game or actually an activity that a teacher might run, all from the same platform. And we hope that we can use that with partners with some of their software and technology and media as well. So, and we're working with First Book, a wonderful organization that has 500,000 teacher members that can get access to things from them. So that's our next big step in making this more broadly available.
Great. And I'll just add that obviously tutoring and virtual remote tutoring is not a new thing, but is crucial that we figure out how to build capacity for that at a large scale. And tutoring with the Lightning Squad has a model that could be delivered once again for that type of remote tutoring. And the key is that it can work in all different types of settings, not just in the high-tech environment. And Sarah, lastly, A2I is used at scale, and how do you make sure it's used in those low resource communities? And how are you looking to grow from here?
Sure. So the most important thing for us is definitely just belief that students can be successful and that the level of resources and the environment shouldn't be dictating that. But we also know that A2I is really geared at supporting the teachers. So we want to make sure teachers, administrators, and district leaders feel supported regardless of their environment to make these reading outcomes a possibility. So we're really focused on areas where literacy is a key initiative and that they do have that belief that their students can really make these gains in literacy. And one of the kind of silver linings of COVID has also been the fact that remote coaching and learning is now the norm. And so we can more easily reach these areas as well more regularly because they have access to cameras now. And that's definitely been the norm. So that's one of the things we've really been pursuing is making more and more of our coaching and resources available through virtual settings. And then finally, we've really also are starting to think about a systems level kind of implementation of the A2I supports in the school and district level, but also in the community. So how can we start connecting resources in these areas that maybe don't have the resources in a school district, but might have a literacy organization through that we can connect through kind of the A2I umbrella to bring these resources together. So that's the other thing we've really been focusing on lately is collaboration of resources.
Fantastic. So I think if, globally, if you're, leading a large system in education and thinking about how to have a system that can provide feedback to educators, the A2I team has been doing this research for 20 years and has now been building the technological infrastructure around it. So please reach out to Sarah. So that's panel one. Sorry to put a quick end to that panel. This discussion obviously is very rich and could have gone to a different level, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
On to panel two. These are our developers who are in the process of adapting their high-tech innovations for use in low resource settings. And we're going to start with Muzology, which is a developer who writes and produces modern, hip, youth-facing learning songs performed by industry artists to have K-12 students learn mathematical concepts.
We started Muzology because we realized that many students struggle with learning, yet know the words to all their favorite songs. That's because music directly activates brain regions that are critical for successful learning. Our mission at Muzology is to enable all students to optimize their amazing potential.
With support from the National Science Foundation and the U.S. Department of Education, we developed Muzology, a digital gamified learning platform that teaches pre-algebra through math music videos designed to intentionally impart mathematical thinking.
Not to Roll numbers, whole numbers, integers are rational by classification. Rational numbers must meet these specifications.
The space where you graph points has a long name. It's called Cartesian coordinate plane. This coordinate plane comes to be when you draw the x and y axes. Coordinate plane like an old school map. Two coordinates pinpoint exactly where you're at. X axis and y axis make four quadrants, and in this you plot coordinates to find out where all point is. Using an order pair. Using an order pair.
X-axis this way, Y-axis this way. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, 4.
I've always thought as math is a really boring subject, but Muzology just makes math more fun.
It's like quick video, so it doesn't take that long.
I think it's very cool that in like 4 minutes you can learn what's usually taught in like 1 or 2 weeks.
When we found Muzology, everybody went up a few letter grades and we were all really happy about it.
I see so much excitement.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for Muzology there. And we're gonna, I think, have Allison joining from the Muzology team in a few minutes. MidSchoolMath created a game called Empires, which is an epic story-based narrative math game set in ancient Mesopotamia, which allows algebra to be coherently used in context of a game. MidSchoolMath.
Hello, my name's Micaiah. I'm a student from Taos, New Mexico, and I'm excited to introduce the trailer of Empires by MidSchoolMath.
In Empires, the fact that we were able to build in a way that makes math relevant in a context of ancient Mesopotamia gives students an opportunity to see how math is relevant in the world. We're building math problems in a way that the human mind was designed to learn them. The idea that we presented them with a story context, a problem that they really want to grapple with and solve, and then and only then we've laid down the data structure, is the difference between a student that will try to just get through something as fast as possible so that they can get the bell or the whistle, and a student who will persevere at solving problems.
10. I get it now. That's really, wow. Wow. That is cool.
Cognitively, what's happening for the student is they are in a situation or context where that piece of mathematics makes sense. They start to understand how math is related to a lot of different contexts. And that's ultimately what we're after. We're after products that can finally get to a place where students are seeing some sort of purpose or relevance. We're talking about a complete redesign. And that redesign doesn't just happen at the technology level. It's not just happening in the fact that it's an animation that's being provided. It starts with the pedagogy of how we teach and learn.
Okay, great. Next is the Quick Interactive Language Screener, otherwise known as Quills, which is a game-like language screener based on that evaluates children's skills age 3 to 5 for vocabulary, syntax, and process, and how readily they learn new language items, the Quills.
Language is so important to everything we do in life, from our success in school to our interpersonal relationships, even to our health outcomes. What if your child had a language problem? How would you know? Sometimes you can tell because your child isn't talking much, but sometimes the problem is more subtle. We know from research that the earlier we intervene and provide supplementary language experiences, the better the child's outcome. But unless we can diagnose a language problem, we can't intervene.
Let's begin.
We created a computerized, culture-free language screener that can be given in 15 to 20 minutes by an aide or a teacher to children between the ages of 3 and 5.
Find the girl behind a car in a white garage.
The computer asks the questions and the child touches the screen to record their responses. Children enjoy taking it and ask to do it again.
A Murph is a kind of bird. Show me the Murph.
The computer stores the children's responses and derives an overall score based on the child's age. In addition to the overall score, this screener gives us component scores in 3 areas. Syntax: can children understand questions such as where, when, and how? Vocabulary: what words do children already know? And process: how good are children at learning new language items? The screener is called the Quills, Quick Interactive Language Screener, and it will be brought out by Brooks Publishing. We hope it will be adopted by schools across the country to identify children with possible language problems.
Okay, great. And Jill is here from the Quills team. Last but not least is Soundtown, where children play speech interactive literacy lessons for 5 minutes a day on the web or through smart speakers. Aparna is here from SmartTown, and we're looking for Soundtown, and here's the video.
Soundtown is a speech interactive app with do anywhere 5-minute early literacy activities for 3 to 6-year-old children to build strong future readers. Just by clicking a link or asking Alexa, teachers and parents get immediate access to effective micro lessons to fit into their daily routine. At school, teachers pick an activity and either press play on the laptop to play the group lesson, or ask Alexa for a screen-free experience for young learners.
Alexa, ask school time for lesson 1.
At home, the child plays with a parent or caregiver. Parents click the link to launch an activity with no sign-up or navigation, just like a YouTube link. The speech interface and adaptive algorithm allows for personalization for children and empowers teachers to move from twice-yearly assessments to continuous reporting and feedback. For remote learning, activities can play over Zoom or teachers share a daily link to parents. In a knowledge economy, only students who read well have a place at the table of opportunity. What if, in 1 click a day or 1 ask a day, we can build foundational literacy for every child?
Okay, great. Well, those were our 4 EdTech projects that are currently building versions that can be adapted for use in low resource settings. We definitely have Scott from MidSchoolMath, Aparna from SoundCloud, Lana from Muzology, and Jill, are you here from the Quills team?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hey, Jill. Nice to meet you. So unfortunately, we only have 10 minutes to go, but this is really getting at the heart of the matter for this panel. The first panel talked about how they successfully developed versions of their interventions that could be delivered to low resource settings. This panel can talk about specifically what they're doing now to adapt their high-tech innovations that you just saw in those videos for the low resource settings. In addition, with your one question, talk about what models you're thinking about to create partnerships, to deploy, to test these innovations in those settings and deploy them. So Scott, I'm going to start with you since we've known each other the longest. MidSchoolMath is a rich game-based experience that's usually delivered in classrooms. How are you creating a version that can be used in settings without those resources that your usual classrooms have? Scott?
Sure. So yeah, Ed and I actually have known each other for a long time, and actually Empires was used in my own middle school math classroom before technology. So we didn't even have that. And the reason that we were after that is, or to build it into something that could be scaled with technology, was because the kids would come in and they would say, do we get to play the game today? And if I had $1 for every time they would ask, we'd certainly probably have more money than we do today because they were so excited about it. And so it started before that particular methodology. And then as we moved towards technology to be able to scale it, we found that we got some of the same reactions from the kids. They just really loved being able to play a game where math was coherent within that context. Our thought now is that we'd like to actually bring it back to some of the roots where we actually build it into a storybook. What we found is that it's not necessarily having the big maps, it's not necessarily having all these assorted items, but to keep the story intact is really what motivates the kids to move through it. And to be able to do that, that's our thinking about a model, is to take this high-tech game, build it into a storybook sort of concept.
Great. And how would that be delivered by an educator? Would it just be in a paper-based book, or maybe they'd have it and they could print it out, or what are some of the options there?
Yeah, I think students having their own books that they go through, but for an educator to come in, we've actually tested this concept where they read a quick little narrative concept. They show a couple of images that go along with it. The students can follow along. The architecture of that actually works really remarkably well because the story is the part that has engaged the students.
Okay, maybe some audio options there too. If the stories could be delivered through audio, that would be another interesting idea. So what's really great here is Scott used to do it, but hand crank it himself as the educator. Then he created a technology that allowed it to go to scale, and a rich technology-driven intervention. And now he's thinking about a way to move it back in the other direction, but still allow it to be used at scale in all different types of settings. So thanks a lot, Scott. Really appreciate it. Lana here from Muzology. Lana, fantastic video. I think everybody got a feel for those math videos. Can you talk about what you're doing to think about how to deliver those videos and your intervention to different types of settings?
Absolutely. And it's great to see you, Ed, after a little while. I'm going to quote Dire Straits to answer your question, if that's okay. I want my MTV. So, just like Scott said, our proof of concept work with Muzology started out with CDs, and technology has certainly enabled our, our tech to be more robust and, dare I say, more effective as well. But we also returned to our roots. So, what we started to do last year was we released an album, and so students all over the world were able to access our music-based content. As Chris had mentioned, we also have an adaptive video player. So that's something that had been in place for quite some time. But to your question, Ed, like, hey, what are you doing now? We're looking at a couple things. One is anything in our platform, from lyrics to quizzes, that can be printable. We're looking at making printable components. Thanks to funding from the National Science Foundation, we're developing native apps. And thanks from funding from IES, we're developing technology so that kids can become creators and create their own music videos, which is something that can take place online and offline. So even in our phased work feasibility testing with this new functionality, what we saw is despite the fact that a lot of the guides and tooling for doing this was through the Muzology website, a lot of the collaborative work happened student to student with a piece of paper and a pen. And putting students in that driver's seat and giving them access to being really creators of their own learning is something that can take place anywhere, anytime, with or without a computer or an internet connection. Finally, the third part of your question about partners and where we go next with this. For us, ideal partners are TV broadcasters, radio broadcasters, digital networks that are able to present content at scale. And so, yeah. We want our music-based mathematical MTV. So
okay, well, I thank you so much there's so many possibilities here. Obviously, everybody in the world loves music, and to deliver kind of rich learning through music is the idea here, and going back to the radio or to video clips, it sounds like it could reach a lot of students. So please reach out to Lana in our audience if you're interested in music and the power of music for learning. Lana's here to talk to. So we're going to move on now to Aparna from Soundtown. What's really neat about that intervention is it uses the modern technology, the Alexa device, to give classroom educators the real-time games and instruction. Aparna, how are you? I don't know if we're going to get Alexa in every classroom around the globe in low resource settings. What are you doing to think about how to use your intervention in low resource settings?
It's actually really interesting. It's because of our use of Alexa that we've been able to figure out using audio only activities in low resource settings. So the first piece is that, yes, you're right, not everyone's going to have access to Alexa, but the content is audio only, and we can deliver audio only in many other formats and ways, including just through phone carrier services where you dial a number and you can get back activities. So we have like low and no internet versions that we can develop upon, and that comes from having like an audio only platform. But then also we've developed on a web app, and web apps, I think Maria had said in the first panel, just famously, they can work on the browsers of most devices, including the really old devices that are commonly found in those low resource settings. And if there's enough internet to play a 4-minute YouTube clip, there's enough internet to play the 4-minute Soundtown activity. So it means that because even though there's the whiz bang speech recognition technology, actually the most important piece is that we're delivering this really consistent, high quality instruction and the ability for a child to have repetitive practice through these videos, and that becomes fairly accessible with just the amount of internet that seems to be fairly common these days, especially post-pandemic, where we've raised access levels. In terms of the piece about connections and being able to go global, we see it in the same way as going within low resource communities in the US, where finding partners that are local, in living and breathing in the communities that already know the challenges that are specific to that community is how we think about the way we'll approach, ways that we'll need to adapt to bring Soundtown into those low resource settings.
Fantastic. And, you hope that the technology such as an Alexa is low cost enough, and maybe working with corporate partners, there could be a way to have that technology be commonplace in a classroom that has an internet connection. And then, obviously it's a game changer there as well. But yes. Thank you so much, Aparna. And I think this group could really meet offline and talk about the use of audio and delivery through different audio channels. That would be a really cool conversation. Maybe we'll do that next year. Lastly, we have Jill from Quills. We have 2 minutes to go here. Sorry, Nicole, we're going to go 2 minutes over time. Jill, how is I watched the video of Quills, and it looks like a rich technology delivered language assessment. How is it going to be delivered to those low resource classrooms?
Well, like Aparna, I'm really hoping that we don't go back to paper and pencil, because the whole innovation here was to make something that you didn't need extensive training in order to test a child. And it's really important to screen children for language difficulties. It's one of the things that's missed very frequently in early childhood. People don't think of it as a kind of problem, but it's actually quite common. And we want to be able to screen children early for intervention purposes. But if you need special speech language pathologists to do that testing, and you need special equipment or toys or paper, it's not going to be available in under-resourced classrooms, whereas this can be, and it can be given by a classroom aide, even potentially a parent, although that gets into difficulties of whether they'll do it properly. But in any case, I'm hoping that we can do this on a scale for lots of different communities in the US, because it is available for various kinds of computers and Android and iPad. And I think it offers huge advantages, and the children love it. So,
and it's available in multiple languages.
It's available in English, and we have a bilingual English-Spanish. There is a French version underway. There's a British English version underway, and we hope to be the inspiration to people throughout the world who want to borrow this kind of technology to make similar ones. Because of course, language has to be specific. It can't be just translated from English.
Thanks, Jill. So sorry to give panel 2 shorter time, but really excited to hear about what you're doing to think about how you're adapting your technologies. I love what Jill just said. It's ironic that we're kind of talking about going in reverse, but at the same time, the interventions are all developed with fantastic theoretical framework, with the research backing, and the technology obviously is delivering the rich interventions, but we're basically talking about these interventions going back to their core to show that those active components can be available in a lot of different ways. And in that sense, probably meeting the needs of different types of learners in any situation, which is an exciting topic. So thank you to Nicole for the masterful coordination of our session. Thanks to Tony at the mEducation Alliance for leading my favorite group. I'm really excited to connect with you all online, and the hope is that we'll be together next fall. Can't wait to see everybody in person. So to our presenters, thank you. And with that, have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.